How's it going, everybody? Johnny Styles here with the Ones Observer Live and continuing the Arnold 2023 sets of interview as we go to the Road to the Arnold Classic in Columbus, Ohio. With me today, no stranger to the show, a person that kinda, in a way, is proving the world that if you manifest things in your head, maybe the universe will conspire to make things happen in real life. A competitor that has been training hard for this show, even though she didn't even know she was going to make the cut, and now she is in the cut. I'm going to welcome to the show Alexis Adam, IFBB Pro Alexis Adam. So welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, this is your second time, and we like you a lot. We've seen you come up the ranks ever since you were tiny, and then you evolved into this great shape and structure. Tell us a little bit of how are you been doing for the past few months?
So I've been good. My last show, of course, was Tampa. That was in August, and then we took about like a 12-week off season in a surplus to try to improve some areas, and then we dove back into prep with the ultimate goal of competing and hopefully qualifying in the spring.
And has anything changed with your plan with training and diet and nutrition?
Since
you did Tampa, basically, what was your goal after that? Thinking moving forward, what did you guys change with your team?
Focused on hamstring and glute density. Needed to grow my hamstrings, obviously, and then they said I needed to be tighter in my glutes, but the muscle wasn't there to be tighter. So I could have been like lost more body fat, but I also would have been smaller. So ultimately we thought we needed to build the muscle so that when the body fat's there, the shape is still hanging around.
I know you are you critique yourself a lot, and it's good. You got to be your hardest critic. What has been the changes, and what have you been thinking about with this new package that you're bringing into Ohio?
So making sure right now what we're focusing on is conditioning. Obviously, so when we initially started prep, we knew that I had applied for the Arnold. So that was our goal in mind. And then I wasn't on the initial list, which wasn't a huge shocker to anyone. So we went ahead and shifted our mindset to what the next plan was, which was going to be a show in Vegas at the end of March. So that was going to give us like 3 extra weeks. So that was our timeline. So when I got the invite for the Arnold, it took us from a little over about 7 weeks out. It took us down to 4 weeks out. So almost cut us like right in half. So from then until now, and pushing into the show, we're completely focusing on conditioning and retaining as much muscle as possible.
So you kind of segue into the question. So tell the people what happened. You applied for the Arnold, you tried everything that you could do to get in there, and that didn't happen. And then people started dropping off, all this and the other. What exactly happened?
Okay, so applied for the Arnold. Like my coach knew. I talked about it with him first, and it was very much, look, like you haven't even been to the Olympia. It's very unlikely, but since we were shooting for that time frame anyway, it didn't make sense to not. Like why turn down an opportunity? So applied, wasn't on the initial list, so we made a new game plan. But so I applied, wasn't on the list, and then a couple weeks after the initial list came out, I saw that Amanda Burnett got a late invite. And quite frankly, I didn't know that late invites were a thing. So where our body comp was then, I was like, well, I still want to compete. Like if they gave me a late invite, I'd take it. So I emailed the contact that we had when we submitted the initial application. I'm sorry, my brain is kind of fried. and just was like, hey, if there's another vacancy, I'm interested in competing still. I'm still in prep. And I just kept thinking about it. Like, I didn't, still another shot in the dark, but I didn't think that anything would come of it, but I didn't see why it would be a bad idea. And then got a phone call last Monday, a week ago today, or yesterday, and got the late invite then.
And what happened when you got that invitation? What was running through your mind?
Well, I had actually, so I was on call from work. So I was supposed to be working that day. But I was put on call. So I kind of had the day, I have to stay near the hospital, but I had a little time on my hands. So I went to the gym, got that done, got my cardio done. Like, all my cardio for the day was done. Most of my steps were done. My training was done. So I came home and took a nap. So my phone rings while I'm napping. And the only reason it wasn't on Do Not Disturb, because these days, I'm only responding to my phone when I feel like it. So, but I couldn't have it on Do Not Disturb because I was on call. So I woke up and I answered it, and he told me who he was, and I was like, oh shit. I think I said that. Right. And I was like, I'm sorry. I just woke up from a nap. Like, give me 1 second. I'm like walking around my house trying to wake up. Because when you're in that dead sleep and then you're startled by something and need to be coherent. Mm-hmm. So we talked for a while, and, he just was like asking me questions, and he was like, when the initial list came out, were you surprised that you weren't on it? And I was like, no, I mean, it's clearly you're trying to mimic like an Olympian lineup. And I wasn't at the Olympia last year, so it wasn't a huge surprise. I figured my only shot was them choosing a dark horse. And they didn't do that on the initial list. So it was what it was. But he told me that they would love to compete. They would love to have the Arnold with a full lineup. And if I thought I could be ready, then I could have the spot and I could have the invite. So I, of course, said yes. I'm like texting my coach while I'm on the phone. My coach is not responding. So I was like, yeah, I'll do it. And, so like we went over the details and all of that. He had me actually send like my most recent check-ins while we were talking on the phone. And he was like, when are these photos from? And I was like, well, they're from Saturday. They're check-ins to my coach. And he was like, what were you prepping for? And I was like, well, I was prepping for the Arnold because
Arnold Classic. Yeah.
Yeah. And then once I was on the list, then we made another game plan. But I am not a 12-week prepper. I don't respond very quickly. My body like adapts pretty quickly to changes in the plan. So we're constantly having to like throw variables in and do refeeds and things like that to keep the ball rolling. So we started prep like beginning of November with the end goal of I was going to compete in the spring anyway. And just depending on how hard we'd have to push at the end of whether I was on that list. So, but he gave me the invite and we chatted. And then immediately when I got off the phone with him, I called my coach because my coach still hadn't responded to my text. And I'm like, alert, I need to like respond right now.
This is not a joke. This is not a joke. This is real.
Yes. And so I called Nelson, and he like sometimes on text he can be slow to respond, but if you call him, he'll answer. Because he knows it's like you need to be, and he was like, "Why is Alexis
pretty urgent?"
Yeah, he's like, "She's supposed to be working today.
Yeah.
Why is she calling me?" So I was like, "I just got off the phone with Lloyd Davis, and he invited me to compete at the Arnold, and I need you to tell me that I can do it." And he was like, "Alexis, did you just tell them on the phone that you were going to compete at the Arnold?" And I was like, "Obviously." I didn't say no.
Of course.
And he was like, oh my God. So he was down with it, but it was like a complete overhaul of the plan. He's like, how much steps have you done? How much cardio have you done? What have you trained today? I need you to give me 20 more minutes on the bike. Send me pictures right now. So, and it's been like that ever since.
At any point, did you shred a tear? Did you cry?
So I'm not a crier.
You're not a crier. Wow.
No.
So you got
I
emotional, but you didn't cry.
Oh yeah. Um, I don't think I cried, but I don't cry at anything. Like weddings, funerals, like it's not a that's not me.
Yeah,
But
no.
it
I
definitely didn't hit for a couple days.
okay.
And then, after I'm like, he's making the changes, we're almost like every other day changes, just making sure that things are still rolling because we had to cut. I mean, we're now to 2.5 weeks out. So I think it really started to hit like Thursday. I posted I announced it, and then people are like in my DMs and like getting all these congratulatory messages, which is awesome. And then I'm just like making plans, like
Mhm.
changing plans that we had because we were going to the Arnold anyway, but we were going to watch a teammate of mine compete at the amateur. So that's completely overhauled, and we had to buy tickets for like our friends, and um, it's
Yeah,
definitely hit now.
right. I remember when when Lloyd Davis called you, Israel, just for people watching this. I remember finding out that you were almost going, you were almost not in, you had one foot in the door, one foot out. It was a very strenuous situation, and then we have to refresh the page every now and then. It was driving me crazy. I can't imagine you were going crazy. Um, but it did happen, and I felt that when it got announced, even I announced it. I felt that it took you a few days to kind of sink in, like holy moly, this is happening. So
Yeah.
I did feel that delayed kind of reaction from you, but this is nonetheless obviously the biggest show of your career, of your very short career, and just to be able to step on an Arnold stage, there's just so many legendary people have gone in. You're gonna be right there with all the pretty much the Olympia lineup. Who are you thinking right now? Who would you like to get a chance to get compared to?
Um, I want to be compared to, which I think I will be, because if they go in the order that it's listed right now, it's alphabetical. So, Marissa and Sunny, obviously, they're similar height to me. I think Sunny and I have a similar build. Um, I was looking forward to standing with Issa, but she's not on the list anymore. Um, and then Cass, we're completely different structures, but it'll just be really cool to be shuffled around in the mix and see, like our strategy. Once I wasn't on the list initially, we kind of made a game plan of what shows I was going to compete in. And some of them included larger shows for that very reason, so that I can see how I compare against the top pros. So that ultimately, if we do get into qualification for the Olympia, we know what to improve on in the time in between.
Right. You have a very good, look to you, especially you're from the front, and then all these girls that you mentioned, Cass, Sunny, and Marissa, they tend to bring that conditioning to the quads, in their front pose, and you are a great add-on to that mix. Speaking of posing, we know you're a posing coach, and you help tons of girls. If you don't know now, contact Alexis. She's good with posing, and she does have a signature pose, but we'll get to that later.
Yeah.
In reality, my question to you is, have you thought about something different in your routine? The reason I ask you this is because this is not a regular IFBB Pro show, and I'm taking merit from the other shows, but I am saying this is the freaking Arnold Classic. The stage, the lights, all that jazz is gonna be out, balls to the wall, and you're gonna have a huge stage to perform with all the time in the world. Have you practiced anything differently?
I've definitely changed my routine from what I did at Tampa. Quite frankly, Tampa, I kept it as clean and concise as I could because I only had like 7 weeks. It was my first time ever doing a pro routine. I have a spin in it now. Um, I have a different hair toss in it now. I'm on stage, I think, a little bit longer than I was at Tampa. Um, and hopefully they don't tell me I need to shorten it. But I have also studied like I've watched and watched and watched on YouTube last year's call outs, the routines from the Arnold, just to see how it's run, kind of different routines that girls did, and taken all of that into consideration.
So we know you're a student of the game, and you're gonna be up there with 8 girls. So you would have, in my opinion, you would have more than enough time to do your presentation, and it's gonna be, on video for forever now. So for people that don't know, you are a, like, what people call a traveling nurse. And for me, I always say, like, it's very inspiring, because many people don't understand the type of work you do, and the times and the schedules. I asked you this before, I'm going to ask it again, because it's a whole different world now. What is a day in the life of Alexis now, preparing for her biggest show of her life?
So, I guess one change from the last time that we interviewed, I'm not a travel nurse anymore. I'm still a nurse, but I don't have to travel for work. So I work at my local hospital. It's 10 minutes down the road. And that was a specific strategy to set me up for success in bodybuilding. Traveling, I made it happen, but it was definitely stressful, and it made the process harder. So now I'm technically part-time, but I work between 2 or 3 shifts a week. On the days that I train, or on the days that I work, I try not to have to train. And I try not to put my shifts in a row, so that allows me to not train on my work days, and I can try to get as much sleep as possible, especially in prep. Because I don't like to sacrifice my morning time. That's the only time that's downtime, that I'm not bothered by anything. That's really important to me, to sit on the couch and have my coffee before I have to do all the things. But I get up, like I work tomorrow, so I'll wake up at 3 o'clock. I will make my coffee. I'll go downstairs. I'll get on the treadmill. This is kind of a new plan, and we'll see how it works. I was on call last Monday, and then I haven't had to work since then. So we've made huge strides in the last week because of not having to work. But I'll wake up at 3. I'll get on the treadmill with my coffee to get some steps in, because I have a step count. I'll do my cardio. I'll eat my meal 1 for breakfast, and then I'll take my other 5 meals, put them in my backpack, go to work. I have to be at work by like 6:30ish. And then I'll work all day. I'll try to stay as active as possible so I can get my steps in, so I don't have to do steps at night, because I do have cardio at night too right now. So I'll get home about 7:30. So I leave my house at like 6:10. I'll get home at 7:30 tomorrow night. I'll do almost an hour of cardio at night, and then I will shower, go to bed, wake up, do it again.
Wow. You see, it's not impossible. It's
Yeah.
just, it takes a lot of planning. It takes a lot of planning. So more power to you. I was going to ask you this, because I've heard it, lately. What When you talk about steps, I have a lot of steps here, steps there. I got to take my steps. What exactly do you mean by that? Because usually back in the day, whatever. Back in the day, it was just, stairmaster, just walk. Or now, do you do like cardio in the morning, cardio at night, and then you still have to get some steps in?
Yeah. So I think the main idea of a step count is like, literally my watch tells me how many steps I've taken through the day. The point is to make sure that you're not stationary during the day. It's very common during prep to get your tasks done, get your cardio done, and then you become more stationary in your downtime than you don't when you're not having to do those things. So you want to make sure that your NEAT, your non-exercise activity thermogenesis or whatever, is still high. So it's just making sure that you're constantly moving. My step count's really high right now, but it's because we're trying to turn what was 6 weeks into 3 weeks. So basically I just need to constantly be doing something, constantly burning calories. But it's almost like LISS, I guess, like low intensity, just making sure I'm constantly moving. And then my cardio, prescribed cardio, is like moderate intensity that I've been doing on the bike.
Interesting. So you're not doing stairmaster right now.
So I don't actually do the Stairmaster in prep really much at all. It tears my legs up, and I just stay constantly inflamed.
Interesting, interesting. All right. So you are not afraid of showing your body. You're not afraid of showing how you look. You're very transparent. And in a world where people want to be perfect, you are showing the ups and downs. I saw a picture of you and I even, texted you. You were, it seemed like you were traveling and you were traveling with almost like a stage light. Is that something you're doing now everywhere you go?
Yeah. Okay. So one of the things with like we had to overhaul and cut our prep in half, the rest of my prep. So
So you do have perfect lighting.
so that was actually natural light at the
Look
hotel
at
when I
that.
checked in. But I use a box light for my check-ins always, and that's to keep my check-in lighting consistent every time. So I'm not dealing with really bright light one day and overcast another day. If you go way back on my feed, then you see my porch check-ins that I used to do, and that became inconsistent because you can't control what nature does. So now I always do the box light. And with having to travel this past weekend, definitely wasn't the most ideal. It ended up being in our favor because I moved so much, I dropped a lot. But I was going to be in a hotel. We all know that hotel lighting is garbage. So I took that thing with me. And I did the same thing when I was traveling and prepping. I took the box light with me. I'm sure that the hotel staff thought I was a crazy person walking in and setting this up in the hotel room. But it's the most consistent. So when I do wake up at 3 and there's no light outside, I can take the light, I can take my check-ins, and then it looks the same as when I sleep in until 7:30.
Right. So it's very important for people watching, girls watching. I'm sure that, Nelson, your coach, appreciates this because you're always staying consistent with the proper lighting. I think the worst thing you could do is just have no lighting or trash lighting that we get in the hotels. And yeah, so that's super cool that you give this tips for people because while I agree, and as a video guy myself, you know, box light is a very big light for you to be carrying around. I'm sure hotels are thinking totally different, but there's smaller lights. But hey, more power to you, and that's you're a professional in your sport, and this is what people should do as professionals. You were talking earlier about you're not a 12-week prepper or whatever. So if you're not a 12, what did you mean by that personally in your past experience?
So, my body just tends to adapt typically. I also don't stay 10 pounds above stage weight in my off season. That's not a comfortable spot for me to stay, and mentally putting on more body fat is more beneficial than constantly restricting. Um, so when I don't stay that close to my stage weight and my body is so adaptive as it is, it takes a little bit more time. So whereas a lot of people send like weekly check-ins until they get super close to their show date, even when originally I was 8 weeks out from the show I was going to do, I was still sending photos every day as long as I wasn't working. And now I'll be sending pictures every single day leading up until the Arnold.
I'm sure I'm gonna get this question, and I'm sure I've gotten it before because as people know, the class keeps evolving, and people need to know this information. I've talked to you before that from the front, it always seems like you're in shape and you're shredded and you're hard, even when you're flat. It's from the back when you tend to hold more. Can you explain a little bit what goes through your mindset when you see that?
Um, I'm doing much better with it now. I think I just understand the process more. Basically, I've never gotten all of that fat off. If you've ever looked at my check-ins before, or I mean, my stage photos, you see that's always my weakness is my glutes. I've never gotten them as conditioned as I would like them to be. Um, Ideally, they'll be the most conditioned they've ever been coming into the Arnold. We're really pushing for that, but I've just never gotten it all the way off. And the way that my body diets down, of course, we know you can't select where your body fat comes off. My abs lean out very quickly, which is nice when you're in prep. When you first start, then you start seeing results and you can wear crop tops more comfortably. But my glutes are the very last thing to respond. I have this is the first prep at this point from show that I've had tie-ins throughout the day, no matter how much water and food I've had in. So I think that's good. We're in a better spot than we have been, but we're still not there. I haven't posted a complete check-in on my Instagram, and I know people have been messaging me and asking because I do like to stay transparent, but I'm also trying to keep a good mindset because we are cutting everything in half. So yes, we're 2.5 weeks out. We're still speeding up my prep though. So like I'm not physically 2.5 weeks out as what I would be if I had kept that same show date, if that makes sense. So I'll be there soon because we're pushing and we're rolling and it's all responding. But a week ago I was still 7 weeks out and now I'm 2.5.
Wow, look at that. From a show that you wanted to do that we were not even invited.
Yeah, and like
Crazy.
it's I think it took me a while for it to completely set in too because even though I knew that applying gave me a very small chance of actually being accepted and all that, like I understood logically, I still like it was a very real vision in my head of being on the stage the whole time, the whole ever since we started prep. Like I didn't tell anybody, didn't post it on my Instagram because you don't know until it comes out. But um, it was like in my mind, I was doing the Arnold. So when the list came out, I was definitely disappointed because in my mind, I was doing it. So we had to regain plan. So then adjusting to, okay, I just wasn't selected. We know why. Like it's not to hurt my feelings. It's I'm just not there yet. Um, and then getting the call, like if you can be ready and you want to, here's your invite. I think it took me a couple days to go back to what I originally kind of knew in my heart already, without any reason to.
All right. As nutrition changed drastically from you got.
Oh yes.
Oh yeah.
Oh yes.
Tell me a little bit about it.
So I mean, before I got the invite, I had like training day diet and off season day diet, or training day diet and off day diet. Now I'm eating the same thing every day, whether I'm training or not. Um, Fats are pretty low. Carbs are getting chopped as we need them to. So, I mean, food's low, cardio's high, but that's where it needs to be. And ironically, before I got the invite, I was getting tired. And I think at this point, I'm just running on adrenaline. And like, I'm so very aware of how big of an opportunity this is, especially being someone who's never stepped on stage with these girls for the most part, who's never been on the Olympia stage, I've only done one pro show, my pro debut. So I'm very aware that I'm being given a shot and I'm taking it for what it is, 100%.
That is awesome. Indeed, we are very happy for you. I mean, if somebody deserved it, people know that it was you because you wanted the show more than anything, and they made us wait for a little bit, but now you're in there, and believe it or not, you're gonna be facing against pretty much top Olympians, and
Yeah.
it's gonna be a good opportunity for you to assess your body and for you to see where you're standing, especially after all the hard work that you've been doing, because you're one of these competitors that you know prep after prep you do get better. So in reality, this is gonna be the biggest show. I'm almost afraid to ask you, like, have you been thinking of foods that you want to eat? Is there craving for something, or are you so focused that doesn't even matter?
I haven't, and I've kind of kept myself like sometimes I'll think like, are we going to go to dinner? But I don't even know what's going to happen at the Arnold, and that will determine what our plan is for shows from there. Um, the soonest show after it is 3 weeks following. So whether we roll into that or we'll kind of see what needs to be worked on and take a little bit more time. I plan to do several shows this season, so
Right.
there's
So I
not
was
going
going
to
to ask
be.
you that. Are you in your mind thinking any shows that you would want to do, like even if you're fantasy booking right now in your head?
So we were initially planning the show that's in Vegas. It's like the Samson Showdown. That was going to be my first show, but prior to getting the Arnold invite. And the week after that, there's a show in Houston. So those are kind of being tossed around as like options after the Arnold. Definitely planning to do, as of now, the Charlotte Cup or Charlotte Pro Cup in Charlotte, North Carolina. That's in April. And then on the original list was Pittsburgh Pro. And I think that's still in the game plan. We haven't made a solid plan since the Arnold. That's like, it's just tunnel vision to there. And then we'll just see what needs to be adjusted after that and make our solid plan from there.
Okay,
Because if
so
it's going to take more than 3 weeks, then we'll just take more time and make sure that I've always brought a better package, and I don't want to just go show to show to show looking the same.
right. So anybody right now in your camp that you want to shout out and things, I always give you the opportunity because obviously this takes a team for you to get there. So tell the world, the floor is yours.
Well, first, I know that bodybuilding is an individual sport. I have to do the training myself. I have to do the cardio myself. But the overwhelming support of like my crew that I post about, just our friends that are nearby. And when I said, hey, I'm doing the Arnold, and there's instantly a group chat of everyone trying to figure out how they can coordinate everything, and how everyone's going to get there and where everyone's going to stay. I don't know that I would be as far as I am without everyone cheering me on. If you ever see my Instagram, you see that any show that I've done, I've had a whole team there. I have people, just friends and supporters that come and like stay in the Airbnb with us. And like, it's just a whole group, and it's so inviting. It makes you feel calm. And then, of course, my sponsors already booked my tan with liquid sun rays. They will be on site, so they'll spray me. I don't have to do any of that DIY crap. I'm always tanned by them, so that's nice. Got my hair and makeup planned. The Shoe Fairy sent me new heels, so that we're good for there. And then that's what I'm wearing all season. And then
is there a difference in the heels?
So yes, so they're the ones I'll be wearing are the Olympian Strappy Olympian 2.0. They're a half an inch shorter, and they don't have an ankle strap. So the shorter heel I actually think helps me sit into my side poses a lot better. I can push into my hip here.
Interesting. So do you feel more comfortable without the strap?
With this, so the original mules, no, I've tried them and couldn't make them work. The ones I'm wearing are the strappy, so they have like 2 over the foot straps, so they come up a little bit higher, basically on the top of the foot, but they don't go around your ankle. So it gives me more ankle mobility, but it doesn't feel like it's going to fall off.
Okay. So you feel more comfortable, basically.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then, of course, Nelson Jones is my coach, and he's racking his brain to make sure that all of this comes in the next 18 days. So I appreciate him.
And you are still, believe it or not, you're still offering posing classes. Where can girls hit you up?
Yes. So my scheduling link is in my link tree in my bio. And then also on my, it's listed on my Instagram page as well, Posing with Alexis. I am fully booked between now and the Arnold. So all of the availability is going to be like March 6th and on, but there's open availability throughout March after that.
That is really, really awesome. And you still are chopping away because, believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen, a lot of people still need a lot of help with the posing. And I guess the good thing about Alexis is that she's gone to the ringer. She's done the good, the bad, the ugly, and eventually what works for her. So check her out. This has been a great show and a great update because Alexis is so great at communicating. You need somebody to communicate. Here, myself personally, I'm super happy for you. I'm very excited for you. You again deserve to be there. And I've talked to several girls that are going to be on stage behind the scenes, And all of them are really happy for you. All of them, at least the girls that I've talked to, they are really supportive of the idea of you being there because they understand how much you wanted to be there and how much you liked the industry. And it's an honor, honestly, to be there. No matter what happens, you can say that Alexis Adams was at the Arnold Classic, and hey, maybe you'll see Arnold and you just do a bicep pose with him or whatever.
Yeah.
All right. So that has been Alexis Adams. She is awesome. If you don't follow her, I don't know what you're doing because you should be following her. You will see her in Columbus, Ohio in just few short days, weeks, just short days. And I'm sure she's counting down. Keep it locked here to the Wellness Observer Live. Of course, your number one source for all things wellness. We'll see you very, very soon. Let's do this.